AI is exposing what our jobs really are. And whether you're in the workplace or trying to get a job, it's hard to tell if the sky is falling or the ground is shifting. What is the job abstracted away from the tools? How do employers and candidates find each other in the chaos? And with the commodification of skills making specialists obsolete, what is the most valuable skill in the future of work? To answer some of these questions, let me share some clips from the thought leaders I look to and am inspired by.
I think somewhere along the line we forgot what our jobs are actually supposed to be. The job of a programmer was never to write code. It was to build software that solves real problems. The job of a product manager was never to write JIRA tickets and produce endless documentations and artifacts and PowerPoint. It was to understand and solve for human needs. Somewhere along the line we started treating tasks as the actual job. And we confused creating artifacts with doing actual work that solves real problems. I feel like AI is now forcing a reset and for us to consider what our job is actually supposed to be.
For a long time, we lived in a world where the job market had friction. You had to show effort to get a job. Write a cover letter good, write a resume good, etc. That friction has gone away. The cost of information production is now zero. Because the cost of information production is zero, resumes are becoming valueless. Cover letters are becoming valueless, but no one knows a better way to do it. I've spent a lot of time staring at the job market the last few months, and I think the conclusion I am coming to is that we are in the middle of a sea change. The old way of showing your credentials, of writing out, this is what I can do, is never coming back. It's just not.
Nobody cares about your expertise. This is bad news, but I have an answer for it. But nobody cares about your expertise. This chart is the activity, the questions asked on a site called Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is for programmers to ask one another about hard questions with programming. Founded in 2008, rose up in the teens, was coming down a little bit, but this moment right here, that's the end of 2022, the beginning of ChatGPT. Boom, fell off a cliff. They are now at the numbers of questions asked of where they started. This isn't just about programming. Any expertise, any skills that you have are all being commoditized. I don't know if you know what the term commodity means, but a commodity is something that we all use a lot and it's there in abundance. Like flour is a commodity. Sugar is a commodity, right? Gasoline, you can buy it everywhere. It doesn't really matter which brand you buy. It's just part of what we do. That's knowledge and expertise now. That's skills. So the thing that used to be valuable is no longer valuable. And I know this sounds really depressing. And if you're sitting there thinking, but I've got 30 years of experience, or I'm the best there is at creative direction, or business consulting, or change management, you might be. But the value of your knowledge, the value of that expertise and that experience has essentially dropped to zero. People aren't looking for it. They can self-serve knowledge because of AI.
When it's not special anymore, its value goes down. And there's nothing that capitalism wants more than to make your value go down. And that's what it's all about, right? Like AI is making everyone's creative labor less valuable. There's such a great book. It's called Blood in the Machine by Brian Merchant. And it's about the Luddites and comparing it to our sort of techno-feudalist situation today, that the Luddites were highly skilled craftspeople and artisans whose labor, the specificity of their labor, the thing that they spent lifetimes and generations passing down, learning, specializing in, at the cusp of the Industrial Revolution. Their labor was threatened and it was being devalued by the machine. So things like weaving, things like textiles, like the Luddites, they weren't anti-technology. They were anti their particular artisan skill being lost and devalued and no longer able to provide a life's wage. And they were right. The Luddites were right.
You know, everyone's chasing AI skills, but the thing that we're not talking about that's priceless is judgment. And I say that because most of the time when a new technology comes onto the scene, like AI has, it moves the bottleneck. What do I mean by that? I mean that whatever we make, there's always going to be a point in the process that is extremely difficult to get right. That's true for any manufacturing process, but what people don't realize, it's also true for software. Now, for a long time, coding was the bottleneck. You had to hand code everything. Engineering teams were expensive. It took a lot to make software. That explains a lot of how all of venture capital funding worked up until quite recently. Now, intelligence is changing that. You can start to have pieces of the code written by AI. There's a lot of debate over how much, to what extent, how do you handle design, all of that. But the point is, the model is changing because we have intelligence. And when intelligence arrives on the scene, it doesn't just magically fix everything, as it turns out. It never does. It moves the bottleneck. And in this case, the thing that most people miss is that it moves the bottleneck from just raw skill, raw coding skill, raw product management ability to write PRDs, raw customer success ability to write emails, to judgment. Because AI, by definition, can't do good judgment. And I will die on that hill. Why? Because judgment is a combination of understanding patterns that you've seen before and the local context you're in.